One of our largest competitors, Buyers Agency, closed their doors. That was on the back of the federal budget. Established properties are practically no longer viable for investment for the most part, purely due to the tax settings. When the government tries to fuck us in one way and pull the rug, none of our clients have to fall over. So if they actually pulled their 1 to 2 property negative gearing limit, most people's strategies would be out the window. I'm doing this podcast today to prove to you why diversification in your strategy is so important. Today I want to talk about something that genuinely stopped me in my tracks a couple of weeks ago. As some of you guys may be aware, one of our largest competitors, Buyers Agency, closed their doors. That was on the back of the federal budget. Now, after reading the open letter, I was actually shocked that this had occurred from such a large player in the industry. However, I was expecting it to start, but not with the bigger players. Now, obviously, since the budget, established properties are practically no longer viable for investment for the most part, purely due to the tax settings. And as much as I was expecting this to happen, I wasn't expecting this to happen so quickly. Now, from a business perspective, this is great because now we've got one less competitor to deal with in the market. But as a property investor, this is not a good thing. And I want to make this clear. This is proving that the government's terrible policy is already forcing people's doors to close, all of whom we're here to help people actually build wealth. Think of it this way. The less people out there doing what we're doing, the less people who actually end up becoming wealthy out there in the marketplace. Now, to be clear, all reports seem like were actually good operators. A great company, great morals, great ethics, great values. So it is a sad day considering they were one of the better players in the industry. Having said that, since their closure, there's been some other news around what they actually did prior to closing down. There was a report that I've just seen. In the days leading up to their closure, were pressuring a lot of their clients sitting on the fence to pay their $20,000 to $30,000 buyer's agency fees prior to them closing their doors. Then transferred $10 million to their own bank account offshore to the British Virgin Islands, and then they closed their doors. With that in mind, what an absolute bunch of assholes. In other words, they saw the writing on the wall. They saw what the government was doing to the market. They saw the market was going to implode due to the tax settings and screwed everyone over on their way out just to pull the pin on their own way so they wouldn't have to deal with the consequences. To be clear, this is disgusting. This is something that no one should ever have to go through. And while technically, being in international jurisdictions, no laws have been broken, this is about as unethical as can really get and absolutely gross behavior. Now, why am I doing this podcast today? Guys, it's bigger than It's bigger than the taxes, and it's even bigger than the government. I'm doing this podcast today to prove to you why diversification in your strategy is so important. See, the problem with guys, all they did was recommend established investment properties for their clients. They only had one solution. Whereas for us, we recommend everything from new builds to established to developments to granny flats, commercial, renovations, dual key, auxiliary, granny flats, everything. Why? Because the best portfolios are diversified. When the government tries to fuck us in one way and pull the rug, none of our clients have to fall over. So if they actually pulled their 1 to 2 property negative gearing limit, most people's strategies would be out the window. Our clients are safe because we've pivoted and we've got an adaptive strategy that works around them, not based on whatever the legislation's saying. Now, is a pure example of what happens when you are not diversified. The government changes one rule, and all of a sudden your entire business and your entire investment strategy is in the toilet. Diversification, guys, is not about making money in different areas. It's about minimizing your risk across all areas. So if you've got new builds, you've got land, you've got established properties, you've got development sites, you've got multiple cities and properties in multiple countries, when one law changes, only a fraction of your portfolio is impacted, not the entire thing. That is the power of diversification. And that, guys, to be clear, is one of the most important tools that we will be using for you to actually have you build real wealth over time. I hope that helps.